Hi, everybody. I'm Matt Towers with CPA.com. I'm on the line today with Kim Moore from Summit CPA Group. Kim, welcome. It's good to have
Thank
you here.
you. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So I won't steal too much of your thunder. I'll just very briefly describe Summit CPA Group. So you're a distributed CPA firm, and you're based out of Fort Wayne, Indiana,
That's
and
right.
you have previously you had an office location there, a business location, and your firm had moved to a distributed business model a couple years ago, I believe.
That's right.
So I think obviously with today, this is a pretty relevant topic for firms. They're kind of looking at how do we feel out how, as an auditing firm, we can operate remotely as a team, continue to collaborate, things along those lines. And I'm just excited because I think you have a lot of that you can share around that story.
Yeah.
So, but
Happy.
real quick before we get into the story, sorry about that. I know when we first met, this is really interesting. So we met when we're working on a product here with CPA.com and AICPA called OnPoint EVP. And so as the name implies, EVP, Employee Benefit Plan audits, we were looking for firms that might be able to help out. And so that's how I met you, as I had reached out to you and you had an opportunity to work with the OnPoint EVP product in the pilot phase. So I'm not sure if you wouldn't mind taking a second to just comment on what that experience was like.
Sure. Yeah, it was, we were glad to participate and glad to be invited. And I thought the tool was a great tool, especially great for folks that maybe don't do a lot of EBP audits, or maybe they're looking to get into that area. It's maybe their first time. Great tool. It really provides a lot of guidance, I think, for folks that maybe aren't that familiar with doing these types of audits. And also it gives you a structure. So if you're used to doing other kinds of audits or maybe other accounting work, but not so much EBP audits, it gives you a good structure. You don't have to go out and develop that yourself. You know, why reinvent the wheel when it's already out there? So I think it's a great opportunity for folks. Good tool. We really liked it.
Good, yeah, and I'm glad that it all came together, because it was through that I learned about your unique business model, which is what we want to talk about today, right?
Right. That's right.
Yeah, so I'll just take a step back and just ask you if you wouldn't mind introducing your firm and yourself a little bit more formally here.
Sure. Summit CPA Group, as you mentioned, we're headquartered in Fort Wayne, Indiana, which is kind of up in the northeast corner of Indiana. If you can kind of picture the state, we're a little bit east of the middle of the country, but we do a variety of things here at Summit. The biggest portion of our business is virtual CFO work. So we work with companies all over the country that are smaller and they need help in their financial area, but they can't afford a CFO to be full-time online with them. So they'll look to a firm like Summit CPA Group to help them out. So it's very consultative type work. Another portion of the business is tax work. So pretty standard tax work with those CFO folks as well as others. And then my side of the business, my team, we do audits. We almost exclusively do benefit plan audits, do a couple of other things, but audit space. We work with about 160 plus companies across the country. Again, we're virtual, so we can work with anybody anywhere, and do their audits for them every year. And I have a staff, total firm staff is around about 40-ish people. I have a team right now of 9 folks, but we've been growing pretty steadily since I joined. I joined the firm in 2014. So we've been really growing the business, really growing the audit side. So we're growing our staff as well. Every year we're adding to the team.
So where are some of the team members? I mean, you guys are all over the place, huh?
We're spread all over. I mean, one of the great things about having a distributed model is you can get the best staff because you're not limited geographically. So I currently have staff. There's 2 of us actually here in Fort Wayne. I have another one in Ohio. I have one in Georgia, one in New Mexico, and he actually when he started with our firm, he was in Hawaii. So he's kind of moved around with us. I have another staff down in Arkansas. Another one out on the East Coast of North Carolina. So they're spread all over. Like I mentioned, we are not limited geographically, so we can have folks all over the place. We've also got staff out west in Colorado. We've had folks in California before. So it really, there's no limit. It's as long as someone has an internet connection and just the right background, and there's a good fit for us, we can work with them.
You make it sound easy, and I'm sure there
I,
are, well, no, they just gotta be online and no problem. But I think what people might be interested in knowing is, how did you make it work? You were working in a physical location, all the way up, I think, until 2018, so pretty, well, relatively recently. And
right.
so you had to go from that work environment to
Yeah.
now everybody's working from home offices. So, like, what
Right.
tell us, how did you manage that transition and get people enabled and so forth?
Yeah, and it's funny because it wasn't originally by design. We had an office, and everybody pretty much worked in the office. Just as most folks, you had the capability to work from home if you needed to, but for the most part, everybody came in the office. And then we were growing as a firm so much that we needed to redesign the office and grow office space to provide for future growth. And so just the nature of the remodel, everybody had to work from home for a time period because of the construction. It just wasn't going to be feasible for everybody to be in the office and them to do the construction. So everybody took their stuff home. It was meant to be temporary. And we kind of figured out some things as we were doing that, and everybody liked it. I mean, it was so kind of freeing for people that they could work to their own pace and their own schedule. It just gave everybody a little bit more freedom. Everybody really was able to spend more time with their family. They weren't tied to the office. So everybody liked it. Everybody embraced it. And then as the office got finished and, everybody could have went back to the office, the folks just said, we don't really need to, we don't want to. And everybody started seeing the benefits, not only individually of being able to work from home, but the benefits to the firm, because you could expand the hiring and how the types of folks that you could get. And so we just kind of made it work. Over time, the firm is very technology oriented. So we're always looking for new technology. They can either help just on individual tasks to make things more efficient and easier to work with, but also how do we collaborate? How do we communicate with not only internally, but with our clients? And so we're just continually adding to the suite of our technology products. That's really the key, is having a good set of products that you use that allow you to communicate back and forth with folks. We found that's absolutely essential. If you don't have that, it won't work. So very important.
I definitely want to dig in on kind of team collaboration and even client stuff, but I have to make a comment first, which is a missing, or an ingredient you didn't comment on, which is critical. It also takes leadership having the flexibility to recognize when a situation warrants a change. And I got to, just the thought that all this money was put into renovating an office just to not use it. It makes me laugh. Like, really,
Yeah.
this is really what happened. But kudos to leadership, though, for realizing that, there's a lot of value to this. And even though you just invested in this office space, this feels right, or this could be the right direction. So that part of the story makes me laugh, that after all of this, you go home, you renovate, and then, oh, well, we're not going to use the office now. So
yeah, it's funny. We were talking before we got on here today about some of our core values at Summit, and another core value, we were talking about humor is one of ours, but another core value we have is innovation. And so we are a firm that, we'll try something. If it works, great. If it doesn't, we'll try something else. But we're very much into, let's keep moving forward. Let's don't stay with what we have. Let's try new things. And that's a very good example of how that worked.
Yeah, so very fun. So you made the change. People just made it work. It sounds like that as you renovated, people learned what worked for them. So now you've evolved to a point where this is business as usual for you. And I know a lot of people out there are trying to get there. Like, we want to get to a kind of a business as usual with remote work and so forth. So you touched on collaboration, how the team stays connected, how clients are impacted by collaboration. I'd love to learn more about what does that really mean, and dig in on how you do it.
Sure. We found from the communication standpoint, it's really critical both on the client, so your interaction with the client side, but internally is also, and I think probably people forget that part about the internal piece. They're worried about getting the job done and what's the client thinking through all this, but the internal communication and collaboration is just as important, if not more important. So we use some tools internally that we actually have a virtual office tool. It's called Sococo. I'm sure there's others out there, but that's the one that we use. And it's online, it's open 24/7, and it actually looks like an office space. Looks like a building. Everybody has their own office. You can go back and forth between offices. You can go into conference rooms. There's break rooms, just like you would have in a real office. And as you go back and forth, you can see people. So there's video, obviously audio. You also can share screens. So you can get two people together. You can get multiple people together and actually work just like you would work in a real office. We also have a tool called Slack, which people probably heard about it. They've been doing a lot of advertising. It's an instant messaging tool. So we can instant message with each other wherever you are. It's on your phone. It's on your computer, so it could be on a tablet, wherever you are, even if you're not at home, we can message each other back and forth, and all of that's done securely. We're very security conscious here at the firm as well. So we found those tools really work. I think one of the keys you want to do is just stop and think before you really plow down a path. What is important to your firm, both internally and your interactions with clients? What did you do before you went virtual? And you want to try to find a way to do that in the virtual environment. So we found it's very important. You don't want people working from home. They never talk. They never see each other. We encourage our folks, go into each other's offices and talk about what you did over the weekend. Talk about what your kids are doing. Talk about, holidays, or you went on a vacation. What was that like? Share pictures, share videos. If something's funny and you got a good joke, share that with everybody. It isn't just all about the work, because if you don't involve the folks and keep them kind of all in tune with each other, it can go bad really quickly, and you may not even realize it. People get off kind of by themselves and they're doing their own thing, and that can be tough. So we think that internal collaboration is very important. Same thing with the clients, though. I mean, you're used to going to their office. You're viewing documents maybe at the office typically, but you're also having conversations with them. You're going over things that you're seeing in the audit with them. Obviously, you're not going to do that in a virtual world. So also very important to do the same thing with your clients. So we found tools like GoToMeeting very helpful, so that you can interact with them. You can see them just like we're doing now. You can have conversations with them. You also can share your screen. They can share their screen. So if you need to see something on a system they're using or how the system works, you don't need to physically be there to see it. You can see it online. Same thing, if you want to do a presentation, you can have the presentation up, and you can do just like you would do in an office. It's the same thing. It's just a little bit different format. So I guess I just encourage you look around, see what tools are out there. There's tons of tools. So, you may already have some that you could use. You just maybe need to adapt them, or maybe look at some other ones that are out there. But also think through how do you work today, and how can you adapt that to being virtual? Because really, we found you don't have to do much different. It's just the format's a little different, but the actual work product is not any different.
Yeah, we've been doing a Monday morning water cooler. Just sort of, how was your weekend? It's just a virtual Zoom meeting. So I agree with you that having those touch points that aren't even work related are important, because we're all human, and we all I think there's a certain level of investment in the team. Like, I want the team to be successful, and so the better I get to know the team, and if they share with me something going on, I can understand and relate and be sympathetic. And I think that's really important.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that you were talking about, those tools, those are all, I'm pretty sure those are all cloud-based, like 100% in the cloud, right? It's another one of those reasons, I think, when we connected over OnPoint EVP, the idea of it being cloud-based, and then with the client piece too. I don't know how much of this you would have even seen in the pilot of OnPoint EVP, because I think you probably focused a bit more on the methodology and such, but there are connection points that are collaborative in nature. So cloud-based collection of documents that feed into the product. So it's very interesting, though, to hear the sort of that tech stack and how cloud-centric it is. And I think a lot of firms are looking at what should I be doing from a standpoint of making sure I have all of my bases covered around the cloud? And I'm assuming you mentioned GoToMeeting. You probably also have like file sharing that you do through the cloud, things
Do.
like that too.
Yeah, we do. In fact, all of our software is cloud-based. We don't have a server sitting anywhere. We have very little information. I mean, we all have individual PCs, but very little information stored there. It's all stored in the cloud. And so we have an IT team of people, and they're constantly looking for new tools, things that can improve things, but also very security focused. Because I think regardless of, we're in tough times now, but regardless outside of that, security obviously is very important to everybody, and certainly to CPA firms. Doing benefit plan audits, a lot of the information you're going to be dealing with is very confidential. Privacy is a huge deal. You're going to see all kinds of information about your clients' employees and also the participants in the 401k plan, everything from their social security number, compensation, potentially medical information, even personal bank account information, just depending on whatever your audit is focused on. So it's very important that you make sure that any connection that you have with your client, with the data that they're giving you, as well as their providers, because you're going to get information from the providers as well, that however you do that, whatever tools you're using, that they're very secure, they have good encryption, that you're using security on your end to make sure that wherever you're saving that information, if that's in a tool like the OnPoint EVP tool or some other tool that you're using, that there's a lot of security around the transmission of it and then also the storage of it. It's just a huge focus. I mean, you have to spend a ton of time on it. It's not the most fun part of the job, but it's very important. I mean, it's just critical to what we're doing and the survival of your firm.
Sure, absolutely. So along this road, I kind of have one more question that's milling around in my head, and it's about learning moments, right? So along the way, you've had to adapt to get everybody kind of set up to work remotely, and then of course there's probably a learning curve, maybe not much of one, but at least some level of how do you educate your clients about anything that might be changing in the process. So I don't know if there are any
Sure.
learning moments or nuggets that you might share, pitfalls to avoid, wisdom, things along those lines.
Yeah, what I would suggest is number one, be patient with folks, because our experience, we deal with quite a number of different clients. They're in very different industries, different setups, and so some are very tech savvy, and so you can just throw it out there. They're good to go. They love just kind of getting in and tooling around with it. Some are not, and some have very sophisticated IT departments and IT setups. Some do not. So I think that one of the important things is constant communication with your client. Don't just give them a tool and assume they know how to use it. Don't assume that just because you gave them access, they can even get into it. We've had situations where their particular IT department has things in their environment locked down from a security standpoint so tight that online tools, they can't even get into them. So I think constant communication makes sure that they can get into whatever tools you're using, make sure that they understand how to use them, keep checking in with them. Status checks are very important. You don't want to offend them by giving them instructions that are too kind of dumbed down, but at the same time, you want to make sure that they understand how to use them. And also, don't just have one tool, have a couple of different options, because maybe one tool is just too confusing or doesn't work in their environment. So always have a backup that you can use with them. Sometimes tools, they're not our tools. We're just subscribing to the tools. So sometimes the tools aren't available and you need to do something right now. So make sure you always have a backup. That would be my suggestion. But I think communication is just the key. Everybody's different. It is very much situational, so I don't think you can start off one way of expressing how you're going to do the audit, but you may have to change based on that individual or group of people you're working with, their background, their knowledge, how much time they have. So just kind of you got to play it by ear a little bit, especially
Sure.
when you're working with somebody new.
Yeah. So you be patient, Communicate constantly.
Communicate.
Have some backup tools in place. So those are the three main takeaways.
Yep.
And then above all, almost over communicate.
Over
Like, you don't think
communicate.
you're communicating enough. If you think you are, you might not be.
Exactly.
I agree with that. I think that's true a lot of places, that
It is
it's
very much.
you're better off safe than sorry, and you never know if someone's suffering in silence, and you don't want them to. So
That's right. And it can cause you delays. I mean,
yeah,
it'll delay your process, which is not what anybody wants. So
absolutely.
yeah.
Kim, I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Great.
I think it's helpful for people to hear, like, what does it take to be successful moving to a more virtual distributed type of business model. So your insight, having been through this all and operating like this for a couple of years, is greatly appreciated. And I'm
very happy to share. And I'd also reach out to all the listeners. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Our website is pretty easy to find on the web, and easy to find my contact information. So feel free to reach out if you got specific questions. Be happy to help.
excellent. Thanks again, Kim.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Take care, everybody.